So the first question I want to ask you is just kind of give us a little overview, shed us some light on Trump's pressure tactics on Cuba specifically, which is the most imminent thing happening right now.
Well, so first of all, you have to understand the entire list of Trump's actions under what he called the Trump Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. People should note that weeks before or days before the U.S. kidnapping of President Maduro, the State Department published the national security strategy for the Trump administration, and they defined Latin America as the backyard of the US. So one of the things, I mean, there's like two things stated in that strategy. First of all, is that the Western hemisphere is America's hemisphere, so they will deny any other extra regional actor to gain influence in our continent. They mean Russia, they mean China, and they mean Iran too. That's the first. And second is about securing the resources of this region. You know, so yeah, one a big deal of that is securing the oil reserves in the Caribbean, not just of Venezuela but also from Guyana. But also we are talking about other critical materials such as lithium. There is something called the lithium triangle between Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, and the leader of the head of the U.S. Southern Command, she stated that the U.S. has a critical interest in securing those resources. Also, Patagonia has a lot of critical resources. When you see the broader strategy, what the Trump is trying to create, the Trump administration, is a sort of a great space or a greater, let's say, a greater U.S. like the, let's say, the Third Reich kind of understanding of the living space, in which the U.S. secures critical resources in the neighborhood. Because, for instance, when it comes to rare earth materials, the main competitor for the U.S. is China. You know, so for instance, just the day after President Maduro was captured, there are already talks in the U.S. media about taking over Cuba, because Cuba
Right,
was
and this is
like the
because, right, and this is also spurred on by the collective security agreements between Venezuela and Cuba, the similar kind of history in defense, the almost kind of like a defense union that they've formed for the last 50, 60 years. So it's natural that Trump would want to extend his aggression on Venezuela and his containment on what he sees Venezuela as representing in the hemisphere onto Cuba.
relation between Cuba and Venezuela was very close from the very beginning. Was forged under the Chavez years as president of Venezuela. Cuba was the first country that generated close ties with the Chavez administration in the first place. So, of course, breaking that bond is strategic for the Trump administration in this agenda of pushing for regime change in Cuba too. And we are seeing the effects already because we have to say that Venezuela under Chavez, for instance, was a regional player in Latin America. So in this scenario, breaking this bond between Venezuela and Cuba is like the logical next step. And we are seeing this situation unfolding because sadly, Venezuela, for all practical effects now, is a U.S. protectorate. So Venezuela has a government now, but when it comes to its foreign policy and its economic policy or its trade with other countries, that part has been taken over by the U.S. administration, of course, under coaction, under force, but that's the situation. And that's why just in a few weeks, the situation in Cuba became worse and worse. And now we are heading towards a humanitarian catastrophe in the island.